Hey, you. Have you subscribed to the podcast yet? What are you waiting for? If you are listening via iTunes, please, please, please subscribe and leave us a review. Subscribing is absolutely free. Reading the reviews from my listeners are one of my most favorite things to do, especially on the weekends. It lets me know what you all are thinking, what you're loving. It lets me know how I've helped you. I want all of you to know that reading those reviews help me too. They help me to keep going. We know that this journey is an everyday, all day, on the hour kind of thing. So reading those reviews are something that are very, very, very important to me. They make me say it. I have to say it. I am not a doctor. I'm not a therapist of any kind. Please, please, please do not take anything that you hear on this show and try to substitute it for professional help. And now that I've got that out the way, let's get into the show. Thanks for tuning in. This is Eve Davis Paul, and you are listening to Vanquisher. Thank you for tuning in. Episode 13, Abandoning Your Identity. I do have a few quick announcements before I get into the show. The first announcement is that last week, VANQPOD received its very first donor. On Thursday of last week, I'm at work, I get a ping. Hey, you received a pledge via Patreon. I look on there. I'm super fucking excited. I got overwhelmed for a moment. Very humble, very grateful. Thank you so much, Abigail, for believing in the show enough to support us. Friday, the exact same thing happened. I've been running VANQPOD since, let me see here, Thanksgiving of 2017. Here we are, April 2018. We're almost at 4,000 downloads, 13 episodes. This one is the 13th episode. And I got 2 donors within a day of each other last week. Thank you so much, Abigail. Thank you so much, Kira. I truly, truly appreciate you guys. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate you. I just wanted to give a very warm, heartfelt thank you to each of you for believing in the podcast enough to support us. The next announcement that I have for you guys is that I am going to be hosting a live blog talk radio show online. All of the information that you need to know, the schedule for the show, the topics for the show, the dial-in number to be able to talk to me, all of that will be on the website by Wednesday, the 18th, which is this coming Wednesday. I am super excited about that because it gives me a chance to connect with all of the listeners in real time and get into some really good conversations. I do want to start knowing, more of what you guys want to know, more of what you want to hear, because ultimately we are on this journey together. I don't know how many times I can say that. You guys teach me stuff. I'm learning things as I maneuver and go through this. But ultimately, being the daughter of a narcissistic mother, it's no fucking joke, but that does not mean it cannot be funny. So, episode 13, abandoning my identity. Now, a lot of people may hear this and they may say, we know that episode 12 was a new you. Where the fuck are you going with this, Eve? I want you all to know that I have been exactly where each of you are. I know what you feel. I know some of the things that can go through your mind. Every single day, it seems sometimes can be a difficult challenge. But what I do know is that there is freedom when we are able to regulate things and separate things and sometimes separate ourselves. I used to feel that, if I ever had to break contact with Wendell for a longer period of time than normal, like I'm doing now, being no contact, that I really wouldn't know who I was. So that kept me connected to her, if you ask me, longer than I really should have been. I turned 26 this year. So me just going no contact last year, right before my 25th birthday, knowing what I know now, was a little bit late in the game for me. The things that I know now about narcissistic personality disorder, about being objectified, about being abused mentally and emotionally, I probably would have went no contact at 21, having a good support system, having the education to know that I am able to do that. I probably would have done it so long ago, and just saved myself some of the unnecessary heartbreak and heartache. I've went like short distances without talking to her, and it made me feel better. But every single time we would be back in contact, it would be like there was nothing to talk about, like as if nothing happened, as if I didn't get abused, as if I wasn't called bitches, as if I wasn't called motherfuckers. Like it was just like, wait. So we're just going to just go back to being normal as if I wasn't degraded, as if I wasn't abused. Like, what the fuck? So when I started to examine going no contact, the first thing that I thought about was I'm walking away from every single thing that I know. And what I want you guys to know is that this is a super normal thought. Now, you may not think it right now, but there is something that's holding you connected to it. And you probably will never really think it directly, but know that that thing in the pit of your stomach that's like, I can't walk away from my mom. She's my mom. I can't do it, but the more and more you're holding on, the more hits you're taking, the more bruises you're taking, the more baggage is being packed onto the back of you. At the end of the day, she won't stand still long enough to stop dragging you through the fucking dirt. And I'm so blunt about it because I remember I used to hear people talking about, my friends, oh, I don't talk to my mom no more, and this, that, and the third. And whether we knew that their mom was narcs or not at the time we were talking about it, mothers should want to love and treat their daughters a certain way. So sometimes in the pit of our stomach, we're just like, oh my gosh, like, I just can't walk away from my mom. Like, I just can't. I love her. And nobody's saying that you don't love your mom. Nobody has told me, hey, you must not love your mom if you walk away from her. But the idea of leaving her to me felt so wrong. But what we have to realize is that we are in a society that says even when your mom abuses and disrespects you and neglects you, you still need to honor her. And while that may be something that we are willing to do because we are loving and needing human beings, what are we compromising in order to do that? Over the years, over the decades, for some of my sisters, what have you compromised in order to honor your mother? I know that I felt like, when I broke communication with her, who would I have to talk to? What would I have to do? Like, what would I think? Would I come up against obstacles and not know how to handle them? I feel like that the way that we think about walking away or breaking contact with our moms is a sort of like a society based panic. It isn't situation based because if it was situation based, we would not be afraid to walk away from an abuser. We would not be afraid to walk away from somebody that doesn't care about our feelings, that doesn't want to hear us talk, that doesn't listen to us. But society sets up mommy and mother and mom in a very nurturing light. And that's all we see. We look at TV, we're around our friends who don't have moms that suffer with NPD, and we have this warmth connection, this mental fuzziness to mom, to mommy, to mother, to mama. And when we think about walking away from that, we're actually stricken with walking away from the idea that we've been needing, the idea that we've been craving that we still have not received. But if it was situation based, I would not be worried about why I can't walk away. Who's going to take care of her when I walk away? You know, our mothers are ages they come ages before us, and we sometimes will put our lives on hold for them and continue to put our lives on hold, and then we get families, we have children, we put our family on hold, we put our children on pause to continue to run backwards, to hold our hand backwards, to pull her ahead when we should be gaining our strength from our mothers, not the other way around. Really think of that. Think of the esteem, think of think of the mind strength that you would have if you were gaining your strength in the proper right from your mother. There are so many things that I would have never, ever, ever had to question if Wendell had done right in raising me. Now, am I saying that she did wrong in raising me? No. But I'm saying that there were a lot of loopholes and there were a lot of gaps. And no, I'm not upset about it. She did the best that she could. But there were things that should have been non negotiable that were not. So when I was walking away, all I was thinking about was all that I had known. Not even really knowing that all that I had known had nothing to do with me. They were her likes, her favorite foods, her preferred beverages, her favorite places to go, her favorite colors, her favorite brands. They had nothing to do with me. So think about mentally. You have you and you have your mom, and you pull them completely apart. What do you like? Did you want to, live at home? Did you want to be in the same state as your mom? Did you have dreams? Did you have goals? It's never too fucking late to say, you know what? Fuck this shit. I'm going to get my life. It's just like, why feel guilty for starting your life? So many times I felt that I was going to be abandoning my identity by walking away. And that also is because we were programmed to believe that we were an extension of them because that's how they saw us. That's still how Wendell sees me, as an extension of her, not as a separate being. Even though I'm miles away from her with my own family, with my own bills, my own everything, nothing that I have right now is functioning and continuing to stay paid because of her. Understand what I'm saying? So think about that. For someone to still think that I am an extension of their hand, it is something completely fucking wrong with that. And I'll be goddamn if I'm going to be 30 with someone saying, no, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that, you better do this, you better do that. I also believed in walking away that Wendell thought that I could not stand on my own 2 feet. It's been so many times when I went to college, the first time I went to college, you know, it was so many areas you want to come home. You're probably not going to make it out there anyway. I mean, this is my college experience. And let's not even discuss that I did end up having to come home because she got ill for the umpteenth time. And there was no one to take care of her. Wait, there actually were people to take care of her, but she requested me. Many times I was off in the world doing what I had to do, whether it was school, whether it was work, whether it was, just living my life, being married. I was always sort of like summoned. It was like, something would happen to where nobody else wanted to deal with it but me. And I began to think like, okay, this can't be normal. This can't be right. My other friends that were out, college, fun, dating. I mean, you know, from teenage years into your 20s, there's experiences that you're supposed to have. And when I thought that I was going to be out, just living my life at an early adulthood, there was always something that happened. And I always had to go back. I always had to be right by her side, whether it was illness, whether it was psych hospital, whether it was strange disease, whether it was, I mean, the list really does go on. Now, I'm not saying that I regretted any of those things, but I do believe at some point, she um is supposed to say, you know what, I'm not going to continue to snatch my daughter back like a yo-yo. I'm going to let her do her own thing. And if something really does happen, if something really does come up and she's needed, I'll give the message for her to then come. But I was more like the mother, the parent, the guider, the provider, the protector, and I never really understood why. So when it came to going no contact, I did feel like I was abandoning my identity. I started to think, well, who will I be without being connected to her? What do I stand on? Who am I now? There's so many questions that kind of crossed my mind, which built up a fear of walking away. So then you look up and, a couple of years have passed, some birthdays have passed, friends of yours, have kids, get degrees, and you're just like, okay, I'm still here by her side. The same thing is happening in her life, the same repetitious things, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's indifferent, they just continue to happen. My life, on the other hand, I noticed was at a complete standstill. Nothing exciting, no highlights, no lowlights. All of her experiences became mine. All of things that were happening in her life became my life. So when it did come time for me to make that separation, what I didn't realize was that I had been connected to her for so long, problem solving for her for so long, taking care of her repetitively, that I literally did not know what to do for myself. What I'm about to say may be what so many of my sisters have been needing to hear. The only real, truthful reason you are not able to break free from this abuse is because it is all that you have known on a consistent basis. We're not talking about other parents, we're not talking about siblings. I am talking about the relationship with my mother was all that I knew on a consistent basis due to the isolation, due to her lies, due to friendships that she had broken. I literally had nothing. I literally had nobody when it came down to another point of reference of how to live, healthiness, communication, um, even things like self care. I had to relearn certain things as a woman about how to care for myself because I wasn't receiving that not only from her, but I wasn't seeing her do that for herself. I was always jumping in to do this, to do that, to help with this, to help with that. And it wasn't like, how a parent would say, "Hey, come help me in the kitchen." It was go do this, go do that. And I'm just like, okay, at what point, I'm thinking mentally, at what point will you go do something for both of us? Like, at what point will you not continue to talk to me about your relationships, talk to me about your affairs and this, that, and the third? Like, has nothing to do with me. So when I did finally decide that okay, I have to go no contact, it did take a few very serious questions for me not to feel guilty. And these were the questions that confirmed that I was only staying connected out of the fear that I was abandoning who I was. And when I say that, I'm literally meaning this is all that I know. It makes me feel safe, even if I'm being abused. Sometimes we have been wired for so long that the abuse to us is love. There'll be some people that say, well, that's the only way your mom knows how to show love. That's just a fucking lie. It's not true. Because I've seen her be around people. I've seen her be around my friends. I've seen her be around other family members. She's completely nice. She's completely fine. She's not lashing out. She's not asking anything from them. And everybody's happy. She's not abusing anybody. I was just telling a coworker of mine, he listened to the podcast and I truly appreciate him for listening to the podcast. But he wanted to know, well, Eve, if you know it's a mental illness or it's a disorder, why can't you just overcome it? When I began to break down the levels and forms of abuse that I have endured for just a reason of like saying no, he was just like, oh, well, shit. I totally get it now. Yeah, we're going to have to pray for her. We grow to be so comfortable of just having a piece of her by and the idea of a mother that society has set up for us. We don't even notice that what we're sitting in and what we're staying in is completely absurd. I mean, when I was a teen and I started really seeing like when Wendell would be like injured or on crutches or whatever, when you think about like hiding someone's crutches or like hiding someone's medication, it goes to a whole nother fucking level. Like it was so many days where I was so fucking fed up, yo. Like so many surgeries, so many times where, I mean, she's threatened my life. She's literally had a loaded fucking gun walking around the fucking house threatening my fucking life. I'm locked in a fucking room. And I'm not talking about as a kid. I'm talking about as a full fucking grown adult. Like one of us gonna leave out here on the stretcher and it ain't gonna be me. Let me put my gun away so don't nothing happen. Like I've literally gone through shit with her that at some point you would only have to know that you have been programmed to, for lack of better words, be a slave to someone. And I want for all of my sisters listening, for all of my listeners that are not women, to know that you do not have to be a slave to anybody. You will not be abandoning anything but an abused state and abused mindset. I had to really realize, well, who am I without this? What do I like without this situation? Who am I when I'm not around her? It is a fictitious, fear based, pit of the stomach thing that will keep us stuck. You may not be able to walk away just instantly. You may have to do it for a couple of weeks at a time, then a few months at a time, then 6 months at a time. But what I want to let you know is that there is freedom after narcissistic abuse. There is freedom after maternal narcissism. I never thought that I would be living a healthy, wholesome, happy life, and not being abused, and also not accepting it from anybody else. I have begun to raise the standard. I've noticed that there are standards and boundaries that are my own rules, that are my own beliefs. Because when I was connected to her, I didn't really have beliefs, I didn't really have rules. I saw her treat me a certain way, and anybody that came along could treat me a certain way, and it would just be okay. I would just learn to accept it. I would stuff down the feelings that I felt. And I noticed that when I did choose to walk away from such a painful a person and painful area of my life, I wasn't abandoning my identity, but I was abandoning my pain. And what we have to realize is that abandonment is not always a bad thing, because sometimes we're not going to be able to do it on our own. Sometimes we're not going to be able to say, you know what, I quit, I'm done with this. Sometimes it's going to take walking away and not knowing what steps to do next. Sometimes it's going to take walking away and needing to, change the number, cut off the phone, distance yourself, not go around other family members that may ask you about it, because everybody's not going to respect your decision. But while I thought in the beginning I was abandoning who I was actually abandoning who I was not. Which gave room for me to find myself, which gave room for me to say, hey, I really love being around people. I really love communicating with people. If I was still connected to her, I would be reclusive. I would be the non-communicator that I was when I initially broke contact with her. There were so many things that were of her behavior that I began to mirror. And I started to take on that behavior and think that it was my personality, when in fact it was not. I did abandon a identity, but it was not my identity. It was her identity that she was grooming me and dressing me with, and filling my mind with. And there are so many things that we have to offer. There are so many things that I have helped myself with, and I have touched the lives of so many people with my personality, not even knowing that I was such a beautiful, bright light. Each and every one of the sisters that I have met in person and talked to and video chatted with, they are bright lights. And at what point are you going to move from under that dark cloud of your mother and let your light shine? You will not be walking away from anything that has helped you succeed in your womanhood. You will be walking away from something that has been stifling you, that has been hurting you, that has been yelling at you, that has been making you cry. How many things and how many choices have you made based off of your mother's wants and desires and not your own? As an adult woman, are you doing the same thing that I was doing? Are you making choices based off of her and what will appease her in your life? There were times where I didn't wear certain things. There were times where I didn't go to certain places. I didn't talk to certain people, all because of what she thought. I have missed out on so many opportunities and so many friendships and relationships and connections because of what she had to say about it, because I had to worry about her verbally abusing me because of a choice that I was deciding to make. I had to understand that I was not walking away from a mother who took care of me, who loved me, who was nice to me, who was kind to me, who was gentle with me. I was walking away from pain and nightmares and tears and fears. And when we are able to make that separation, I've talked about it before, the separation of what is true and what is false, breaking that connection will become easier. Um, we can sometimes feel guilt for walking away. We can sometimes feel shame for walking away. All of those symptoms are because we've been programmed to always be there, and we've been programmed to always endure and keep moving. And if you notice, our mothers can't even endure and keep moving. Like literally, we hold a heavier bag than them, and we take all the hits, all the smacks, all the losses. And one thing happens to them, and everything has to completely stop. Like literally, everything has to stop. One thing happens to them. We are so much stronger than we give ourselves credit for. And what we also do have to understand is that a lot of our reservations on taking our lives back stem from fear. Our parents put a lot of fear into us. Our mother put a lot of fear into us with different situations, different scenarios. But it was always that fear based thing that would continue to make us stay, continue to make us obey. It was always that fear based thing that would keep me quiet. And we have to know that if we have not made a change mentally to dispel and to drive out that fear based falsity, for lack of better words, it will continue to be there. Every single time we want to make a decision that has anything to do with her and taking our lives back or taking our voice back, it will show itself. That was really big for me to realize because I used to really beat up on myself a lot. Um, and I never really understood why I felt that I was beating up on myself as my mom. I would hear myself say, "Oh, you're ugly, you're fat, you don't deserve this. That person should treat you this way. It's fine. You don't deserve better anyway." And it would be things that I've heard her say to me, but it would be in my voice. It's so crazy. The mind can be reset, revamped, rebuilt, recreated. Our beliefs can change. We can pour into ourselves new things, new beliefs, new thoughts, and completely recreate ourselves. And I want every single woman listening to this that may be on the fence about a decision, that may be beating herself up after she's made a decision, to know that you have done nothing wrong. This is your life. This is your life. While we have people getting shot down in the streets and we have women going missing, here you are listening to this podcast, wherever you may be, in the car, on the train, at home, wherever you may be listening to this podcast, you have a chance to take your life back because you're only being held hostage willingly. You are being held hostage at your own free will. You are not allowing yourself to live at your best capacity. And only imagine how happy and how great you can be as a human being if you just let yourself free. Let yourself be free to experience things that are solely for you, waiting on you to reach out and grab it. We only get one shot at this life. Take your shot now. It belongs to you. It is rightfully yours. You deserve to be happy. You are important and you are free. We have a brand new segment that will be in each and every episode. I want you ladies to start sending me your questions. It is a Q&A segment. You send me your questions via Twitter, our Facebook page, or our website, and I will answer them directly on the upcoming episode. I do have one question here from a listener, and her question is, when was the first time you felt that your mother did not care about your feelings? This was sort of a tough one. It did make me think. I want to let the listener know that I really appreciate this question because what it does for me is it gauges how far I've come. It also reminds me how long this has been a thing. Before I started this podcast, I don't think I really delved deep into narcissistic personality disorder. Since, of course, starting the podcast, I've been able to do a lot of research and think back into my teenage years, my childhood, and I think that the first time I noticed that Wendell did not care about my feelings, I probably was about 7. I think I was in like second grade. I expressed not wanting to wear barrettes anymore. And for people who don't know what barrettes are, they're hair accessories for little girls. And I also expressed not wanting to wear earrings anymore. I was a big tomboy, and obviously now um, I'm a dominant lesbian, so I wear guy clothes or whatever the case is there. But I expressed not wanting to wear these things in my hair, that it made me uncomfortable. And I remember her specifically telling me that it didn't matter that it made me uncomfortable, that girls were supposed to dress this way. And I cried. I cried on the way to school, and I pulled off I pulled off most of them actually in the back seat. And rather to just let me, because my hair was perfectly done, rather to just let me go into school um, with none on, she sat there and made me late for school because she put all of them back in. Now, this not only takes me back to how she wants to continue to keep her false image of the perfect parent, but I was physically and emotionally in pain. I did not. This was something, and when I say I wasn't like, oh, I really just don't want them, I wasn't being whiny. I was strongly expressing that I did not want to wear barrettes. I did not want to wear earrings. Now the earrings, they were clamped on, so they had like the child security lock where you couldn't lose them. But I was emotionally in pain, and thinking about it gets me choked up just a little bit because I haven't thought back this far. But it was a painful time for me. I went into school, and my teacher, Miss Blackman, who I'm still in contact with, she is such an amazing woman, an amazing mother. She was a huge part of my nurturing, a huge part of me learning how to love myself and love other people in spite of, and forgive. She saw me crying, and she asked me what was wrong, and I told her that I did not want my barrettes in. I didn't want to wear them at all. And she took each one off and put them in a little baggie, and she said, at the end of the day, we'll put them back on. And I told her, okay. And it really didn't make a difference what me not wanting them made my mother look like, but that I was in pain, that I did not want them, that no matter what, you will allow your child to be in pain over an accessory. Um, that had to have been the first time that I really noticed that something was different about the way that Wendell showed me how she thought of me and what she thought and how she cared for me. I remember that day so vividly. Um, I appreciate you, listener, for that question. I appreciate you for taking me back to that moment to make sure that my feelings are in order and my emotions are in check. I really, really appreciate you allowing me to answer that question. I appreciate all my listeners for tuning in to episode 13, Abandoning My Identity. I want y'all to remember that you are not abandoning your identity, but you are abandoning your pain. And it is okay to walk away from that painful situation because there are so many new, inviting, invigorating, and appreciative things and deserving things for you on the other side. Much love. Until next time, y'all, take care.